Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a good day this Saturday morning. We've had a few days of rain out here at Blue Mountains, and it looks like it's going to be a little nicer today. Cool, but it's brightening up already, so that's kind of fun. So we're going to start off using your strap or your towel today, but a little differently than we sometimes do. So instead of doing some of the strap work and the arm work, we're going to use the strap or the towel to do some work supporting your neck, doing some supported neck, little crunches. So if you are working with a strap, you can double it over like we often do, and then just place it out, lay it out in the center of your mat. And I'll show you what to do with that. I'm going to try and like fake both of them so I can give cues for both. If you have a kitchen towel, just double it over and place it on the floor. Your head is going to either go right on the towel or it's going to go on the strap and you want to leave some room above your head with the strap. So I usually try to leave about 6 inches of strap above my head, or you're going to put it right on the towel. So all of that introduction. So I'm very carefully lying on the strap. I have the strap just basically on my spine. And I want to set up in the right place so I have some room to grab the strap above my head, or I'm going to adjust the towel into place. And then, just take a moment here once you get in your position. Take a couple breaths and let everything just kind of relax. So either the towel or the strap is going to serve as support for the weight of your head. It's going to help you really relax your neck and bend through the upper spine and focus on the upper abdominals a little more. And it'll give you a little feedback to let you know if your neck is tensing or not. Because either the towel or the strap is going to be holding the weight of your head as opposed to your neck holding the weight of your head. So if you have a towel, you're going to reach around and just kind of bunch up the ends of it. And you're going to take your elbows up towards the ceiling. And this is going to be kind of your cradle to bring your head off the mat, your elbows forward, looking into your belly and just kind of testing the weight of your head in the towel and then coming back down. So that's the towel version. I'm going to take that away since I've shown that. And if you're using the strap, you're going to hold in that space above your head. So your hands aren't right on top of your head, but there's a little space between your head and how you're holding. And the tendency is to loop your hand through the strap, and that tends to not work very well. It feels like it would work, but for some reason you can't really relax your neck as well when you loop your hand through the strap. So hold the strap with one hand and then hold your other hand. Use the other hand to hold to just, make a fist right over it. And then same thing, elbows are kind of pointed up towards the ceiling. Give a little pull out on the strap and then start to bring your head up and try to keep the head really heavy, the neck really relaxed. And the elbows are coming pretty far forward. If you try to keep the elbows out, it's not going to work so great. So they're coming forward. You should get a little tricep feeling. And then once you're up, however high you are, relax your neck a little more. Feel your head really heavy, resting in the towel or resting in the strap. And then really relax neck as you come back down. So we'll work like that a little bit, up and down. So you're going to exhale, find your connection, feel how your prop carries the weight of your head. Your arms work to hold on to your prop, your towel or your strap. And then once you're up, could you relax your neck a little more? Let it rest in the towel or in the strap. And then that same feeling as you go down. And we'll do it a couple more times, exploring. For a lot of people, they notice their neck comes on really, really soon. So you might not be coming all the way up right away. You might come up and pause. If you feel your neck come on, take a moment. See if you can relax. Try to go a little farther. Pause. Take a moment. Relax your neck. So use it as an exploratory movement so that your body can start to figure out how to coordinate the action of bending your upper spine without tensing your jaw, your head, your neck, all that stuff. We worked on opening up a lot of these muscles last week. So maybe you have a memory of that in your body. And as you relax your neck, you might also think of your forehead. You're raking your forehead or relaxing your jaw. Let's do one more. And then as you get to the bottom, relax everything. Take a couple breaths here. And for me, when the front of my neck relaxes and I go through all of what we just did, it almost feels like my head is dropped slightly behind my rib cage. Like it's actually a little more in the floor than the other parts of my spine. It's a really common feeling. Sometimes I feel like that with my legs after I've released them, or my feet feel like they're more in the floor, like one foot more than the other, which probably isn't exactly true. Like if we took a picture of you, but your nervous system is used to organizing in a way that your head is forward of your rib cage. And it gets used to that being normal. So when you start to let some of that go, your nervous system has to acclimate, right? So it starts feeling like your head is behind your rib cage, but probably it's just in line with your rib cage. So take a moment with that feeling if you have a feeling like that, like, oh, my head feels really heavy, or my chest feels different in some way. And just breathe with it and observe it and let things sort of settle into place, like, oh, this is the new normal. Let's settle into that feeling. And then take a moment to get rid of your prop, your strap or your towel. Take it off to the side. Pilates, we call them accessories, not props. But I just called it a prop anyway. And then settle back into where you were a moment ago. And this would be what we'd want out of your standing posture and your seated posture too, right? The back of the pelvis, the shoulder blades, and the back of the head all feeling like they're basically in one line, which they are on the floor here, right? They're all resting on the line of the floor. And with that awareness, draw your abdominal muscles in, ribs together, belly in, just that little bit of tone in your belly. But still this nice open, lined up back body. And you might notice, like I noticed it, I was like, oh, draw your ribs in. And my shoulders came up and my head actually started to pull forward again. And that was an indicator to me of like, oh, maybe a little less of that ribs in feeling. Maybe I don't need to pull in quite as hard. So what is the balance between letting the back body stay lined up and letting the front of the body engage? Can you find the relationship there? Once you have a sense of that, we're going to go into knee folds and just practice that organization in your torso, stabilizing, nice open back body, lined up, a little bit of supported, engaged abdominals at the same time. Inhale, right leg comes up. Exhale, it goes down. Left leg comes up and back down. 9 times out of 10, if you have a hard time feeling this exercise, slow it down. Go a little smaller. And imagine your leg as being heavier. So if I go really quickly and my leg is light and really big, I'm going to go into all my kind of normal patterns. My thigh muscles do the work. It's not a very hard exercise. So if I have a hard time feeling it, I just go, okay, a little heavier. My leg is a little more dead weight. A little slower, especially at the beginning, because that's the hardest moment. And then not quite so big, not so far in. And then I can notice my abdominals working a little more. Then I can tell when my neck comes on or my head starts to pull up. One more each side. And then again, do a moment where you go, okay, whole back body, a little heavier, back of the head, shoulder blades and pelvis lining up on the floor. Front of the neck relaxed. And then however is comfortable, come up to sitting. And let's see if we can find that same thing, same image, flipping over. So we're going to go to hands and knees to do that. So hands shoulder distance apart, knees hip distance apart, and a little soft feeling in the elbows. Now for me, the first thing that happens is typically my rib cage kind of hangs and my shoulder blades pull together a little. And then also really common is the head hangs a little down of the rib cage, right? A little forward of the rib cage. So let's figure out those two things. Pelvis, I'm just going to let the pelvis be as it is. It's probably in an okay place. That feeling of drawing the ribs together helps me float my rib cage back in line with my pelvis. And then my shoulder blades widen. And then I also feel elbows a little soft. That helps me with that. And then still the head tends to be a little forward of the rib cage for most of us. So like you had the towel to drop back into, like you had the strap to drop back into, float the head up and back slightly. So everything lines up a little. And then a little bit of tone in your belly. And a couple breaths here. And already I can feel my arms coming on a little. I can feel my belly. I feel a little bit of like the back of my neck maybe. Not doing much. Notice I said maybe. Sometimes that's the feeling, like I think the back of my neck is working. It's sort of that feeling. And then we'll see if we can stabilize that. Moving your right leg back, moving your left arm forward, fingers on the floor, toes on the floor. And reset that nice long lined up posture. Keeping all that, arm and leg come off the floor and they go back down. Now they don't come high. If they come high, I'm not going to be able to keep my spine in line. I'm not really supposed to be able to keep my spine in line and lift my leg very high. So it's not like a challenge that you wish you could do, right? If I want to focus on keeping my spine lined up, I need to keep my leg a little lower. I'm going to do it a couple more times. And then bring everything back in. Do a little reset. See if you can find it again. Wide upper back, head floating back in line with the spine, ribs and belly support it. Right fingers, left toes reach back, still on the floor, but straight arm, straight leg. And then coming up to the place where I can keep my spine really steady. Up and down a few times. Inhale up, exhale lower. Two more. And then back to hands and knees. Let's do a little reach back onto your heels for a moment. Let everything relax. Now, I like to invade Scott's territory sometimes. We're going to try a downward dog. Well, I get to do a downward dog. And mainly just because I think it's really an interesting thing. After what we just did, we really set up that back body lining up. And we're going to do an inflexible dog, downward dog, right? We are not looking to take them, and dogs aren't really that flexible anyway. If you look at a dog, they don't really straighten their hind legs all that much, right? They're always bent. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do pretty bent knee, downward dog. And thinking about that same position of your spine. Like, can you get that sense, not hanging the head forward, but letting it stay lined up with the back and the ribs connected, the belly in, and then coming back down to hands and knees. So my hands went a little forward of my shoulders, just to kind of test it out. After what we just did, it's kind of the same action, but instead of lifting my hand up and reaching my leg out, I'm just lifting my torso and tipping it. I'm thinking of keeping the whole back body in line. Not really trying to stretch my hamstrings or my shoulders necessarily. I'm really just trying to figure out what is it to keep my spine in line. Just up and down a couple times. And then as you finish this one, just relax. So just like something to explore and play with a little bit. So let's go onto your back again. And then it's nice for me, I always like feedback. It's like, oh, there's my back. Okay, I get it again. I can feel how that all is set up on the floor. We're going to take your right leg in, hold the back of the thigh. And then same thing as you go up and down, just leaving your head heavy, your neck relaxed. Not popping and shifting your chest around or tucking and arching your pelvis. Just leave your spine pretty steady as the leg moves up and down a couple times. And then last time reaching your leg up, same thing, little support from your abdominals, keeping the back body really open, hands come by your side. Circling around over to the left, around and up. Inhale across, exhale, circle. Inhaling and exhaling around. And then reversing. Low belly keeps your pelvis in place. Low ribs connecting keeps the upper part of the torso in place. Heavy head, relaxed jaw, keeps neck and head in place. Bend your knee, rest your right leg down, holding the back of your thigh on the left leg, up and down. Inhale, reach. Exhale, bend. What's your tendency as your leg gets straighter? Does it want to pull on your pelvis? Does it want to pop your chest out? Does it want to tighten up in your neck? It'll be different for different people. Where do you need to keep your attention as your leg gets straighter and straighter? And then next time your leg is up, leave it there, connecting everything to take your hands by your side and you start your circle. Nice heavy head, easy jaw, easy forehead. Open upper back on the floor, ribs connected in the front. Steady pelvis, working the low belly. One more this way. And reverse it, opening, exhale across and up. Inhale, open, exhale, across and up. Last one. And then bending your knee. And bring yourself up to sitting. Okay, so let's come to sitting up. And grab your towel or your strap again. And if you have your towel, we'll use it like we often do, holding the two diagonal corners. So you're about shoulder distance apart. If you have the strap, you can fold it up a couple times, double it up a couple times so you can hold it shoulder distance apart. And then just kind of set it down. So it gets a little more challenging, especially if your hamstrings are tight in this position, to find that line we've been talking about. Head tends to be a little forward. Chest tends to pull a little up and out. Pelvis tends to be a little tipped back. All those things tend to happen. So maybe you bend your knees, maybe you sit up on a block or a blanket, maybe you sit up on a stool or a chair and do this exercise sitting on a chair. That would be totally fine. What do you need to do to line up your spine again? A little bit of rib connection, a little bit of belly connection, feeling way up on the sits bones. And then like you had the, towel behind you again, and you let the head come back a little into that space. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just pay attention to it. See what it's like. What can you find? Now, a little pull with the strap. Almost back to that hands and knees position, right? Like we just took your hands and knees position and flipped it upright. So a little bit of work in the arms. We're going to roll forward. And then see if you can find that position lining back up again as you roll up. Exhale starts to take you forward. And then unrolling your spine. Three more times, exhaling. And maybe you can even feel some of these relationships. When I lift my head, I really want to push my chest out. It just happens. So I pay attention a little more to my lower ribs connecting in the front as my shoulders and my head come up into place, because I just need a little extra help that way. Last one. And resting. Okay, so let's come up to standing. Look at a couple things there. You can work your way up however you like. So, standing with your feet a little bit separated, we're going to do a little bit of side bending. And just like I was talking about, that feeling of, very often, because the head is so forward, because when we sit, we are basically in this position a lot. When we're sitting, we just all are. Because of that, sometimes the way I get my head up over my rib cage is I just tip the rib cage, right? And that makes my head feel more centered over my pelvis, basically. So my rib cage gets pulled forward, my chest gets lifted up, my head feels like it's centered over my pelvis, but there's still a lot of tension in my neck to do it, right? So instead, I could let my head and my neck release. And all of this has to open up a little more. This has to work a little more in order to get my head into place. But there's a really strong tendency for all of us to have the ribs a little forward. I'm exaggerating some. And the neck a little short here. So it's actually a lot of work to get to that place where, okay, ribs come into place and head and neck float back into line. So now the reason I bring this up, we're going to do a little side bending. So maybe you figured out how to be in this position when you're upright. But then when we start doing other things like twisting or going to the right, we go back into that other posture really quickly. So a lot of times people will start to side bend, and right away the ribs kind of come out, or the head kind of comes forward into that side bend. So I'm going to see if we can find it here. Hands behind your head, elbows a little forward. And the hands behind my head, it just gives me a little something to lightly press into. And then starting to bend slightly over to the side, paying attention to all that stuff. I can feel it. My head wants to go forward. My ribs want to tip out. So I just have to pay attention. Back to center. Same thing the other way. Head floating a tiny bit back, ribs drawing together. And paying attention to that as I go to the other side. I don't go as far. It feels less like a stretch and more like a lot of deep little minor postural muscles working. Not letting the hips move, just feeling the spine move. One more each side. And then taking everything down. Okay, so we'll hand that over to Scott. Give him a chance to put some of those yoga poses into play. I'll get rid of all my props and accessories.
Well, hello, everybody. I almost said good morning, but I think some of you are in different time zones or watching the recordings. So hello. And let's go ahead and start off in standing. And I really love how Collette was talking about that tendency for lower ribs to jut forward. I used to be really notorious for doing that. And so this idea of knit the ribs, boy, at first I didn't like that because I could feel my head and shoulders come forward. It's like, this is going the wrong direction. But once I learned how to keep those ribs knit and then bring my head up and then bring my shoulders back, I was incredibly freeing because not only did I have the good benefit of standing tall and nice posture, but my back didn't hurt as much. And that was a really big problem for me. See, anymore, I don't even show ribs jutting forward because it makes my back hurt just in demonstrating it for a moment. So let's take a few moments here practicing what you've been looking at, what you've been exploring. Now let's add in a little bit deeper breathing. So this is not super deep breathing, just deeper. Now, do you notice when you inhale how it tends to push those lower ribs forward? That's really common. That's not diaphragmatic breathing. That's just your lower ribs coming forward. So what you've been exploring thus far, coexisting with deeper breathing, which actually means that this sense of knitting or snugging up the shoelace takes a little bit more focus on the inhale. But maybe you're already feeling the good payback, that if you can keep that integration as you inhale, then the stiffness between the shoulder blades that so many people live with is reduced. All right. So basically everything you worked with thus far, coexisting with deeper breathing. And now let's use gravity to help us build strength in multiple different directions so that you can help maintain this posture as you go about your day. So begin by stepping your feet wide apart. Turn your left foot in a little bit and then your right foot out. And let's make a few movements to warm up. Exhale, bending your ankle, your hip, and your knee. Inhale, straightening. So this little bit deeper breathing. Exhale, inhale. A few more. The next time, knee in the bent position, pausing there. And Collette gave you so many great cues to work with. I can't really add anything to that discussion. So let's bring your hands to prayer position. Take a few moments quietly to align your torso. Now maintaining that integrity with the deeper breathing. So maintaining the alignment with the breath as you slowly tip your torso. Pause part way. Reconnecting with the alignment, the breathing. Continue the tipping until your elbow rests upon your knee gently. Bring your other hand on your hip. Same breathing. So same torso positioning as you come up, same alignment. Turning back to the front. Both feet pointing forward. I'll oftentimes use an exhale to cinch the shoelace, knit my ribs. Then remember to keep that connection through the inhale. Abdomen, thorax, neck, and head all lined up. Second side, turn your right foot in, left foot out. Exhale, bending. Inhale, straightening. Now remember when you did those leg circles on your back? That this seemingly simple leg movement, some people their shoulders pulled forward, some people their head picked up. Dare say the majority of people their neck tensed up. So we were working on moving the legs, maintaining the alignment, the ease, and the trunk. So this is basically just an offshoot of that. And then for no additional charge, you're articulating your ankle, mobilizing your hip. Buy two, get one free. Mobilizing your knee. So next time knee in the bent position, pausing there. Bring your hands to prayer position, aligning your trunk, neck and head. And then slowly tipping your trunk. Come part way over, pausing for a few breaths. Continue tipping. Hand to hip, elbow brushing your knee. Steady breathe. Inhale, coming up. Turning back to the front and stepping your feet together. So now we're going to use a partial sun salutation to make our way to the floor. So begin with the inhale. Exhale, arms up. Very real possibility my arms go out of the frame. Inhale, arms to the side. Remember that feeling of articulating your spine. Exhale, gorilla. Articulate it the other way. Inhale, back to dog pose. We're going to take a few breaths here. Yoga pose. Head down dog. So this can be done many ways with knees bent like a real dog. Can be practiced with knees straight. Like you practiced earlier, it can be done with head lined up with the rest of the torso. Or like I'm demonstrating right now, it can be done with your head hanging. And then coming down. And then sitting in cross legs. So you practice sitting now. Remember you did that spine stretch, that forward folding. So see if you can find that same front of the sitting bones rooting down, crown of the head lifting up. So we're going to, like a kid or child, is stacking their blocks. Pelvis. Abdomen stacked above pelvis. Thorax stacked above abdomen. Neck above thorax. Head stacked atop neck. Vertical axis. So now we're going to rotate around that vertical axis. To the right, turning your head. Vertebra by vertebra, your neck. Your shoulders. Upper part of your rib cage, but not the lower part of your rib cage. Keep those ribs knit. Left hand comes across, right hand behind. Deeper breathing. All the same key points. And exhale, coming back in. So if you imagine like a bicycle wheel, the hub or the axle of the bicycle wheel stays still in the middle. And there's a spinning or rotating that goes on around that axis. Well, if we just flip that bicycle wheel, your axis is more or less your spine. More accurately, your spinal cord. Pelvis, abdomen, thorax, neck, head. And now we're going to rotate the other direction. Head turns, sequentially rotating your neck vertebra, your shoulders, your upper chest, lower ribs stay put, stay connected. Steady breathing. And then turning back toward the middle. You have that sense of your axis. So now let's make our way back to hands and knees. So as you did previously, on your hands and knees, find your axis. So just like you worked with Collette a little bit earlier, turn your toes under and see if you can maintain that axis as you move back. So this time it's not letting your head hang like I did previously. It's keeping your head and neck lined up with the rest of your spine. We'll take a few breaths here. And exhale, step your feet forward. Articulating your spine into extension. Inhale, folding, articulating your spine into flexion. Exhale all the way up. Inhale, arms down. All right. So take a moment to feel your feet upon the floor. So in the vertical pelvis, abdomen, thorax, neck, head. Boy, isn't that interesting how the lower ribs want to push forward? There you go. There's your central axis. And we could go off into esoteric physiology and talk about chakras, prana, nadi, bindu. I think they all point the same place. This is an important alignment. So stepping your feet wide apart, checking in with that alignment. Turn your left foot in and your right foot out. So keeping that sense of midline as you bend your right knee, hip, and ankle. Bring your hands to prayer position. So now slowly tipping that central axis from the vertical to the diagonal. Pause for a moment. Continuing. Elbow brushes the knee, hand on the hip. Central axis stays as you take your left arm up. Remember how we did that little rotation around your central core axis? toward the floor, turn your head and neck. Steady breathing. Inhale up, turning back to the front. Second side, turn your right foot in, your left foot out. Check in with your central axis in the vertical. So once you can feel pelvis, abdomen, thorax, neck, and head stacked in the vertical, slowly bend your left knee. Bring your hands into prayer position. Really, the joining of the hands can be an affirmation of that central axis. Then take that central axis, slowly tip it from the vertical to the diagonal. Pause. Pause with a U, not a W. Then continue. Elbow to knee, hand on the hip. The best you can, maintaining that central core axis as you now take your right arm up. And then rotating about that axis toward the floor, head and neck. Inhale up. Turning back to the front. And then stepping your feet together. Central axis. Knitting the ribs, for almost everybody, I think, is the missing piece. So keeping that integration, if we go into the more esoteric, energetic anatomy, is what helps unify grounding energy with lightness energy. So keeping that integration right in the middle of your core. Head lifts up. Legs root down. Few deep breaths. So next movement may seem trivial, but for almost everybody what happens is their lower ribs push forward. So with the next out breath, bring both your arms forward. That wasn't the movement right there. In terms of what tends to push the ribs forward, it's the precursor. It's the next movement. Exhale, arms up. See if you can keep that core axis alignment. And see if you can keep that core axis alignment as you bend your ankles, your hips, and your knees. We're going to hold here for 30 seconds. Now, even here, those lower ribs tend to push forward. So everything we've been working with and on, at 15 seconds right there. Notice how your arms drifted forward, bring them up and back. And exhale, straightening your knees. Hold here for the inhale. Now as you exhale, float your arms down, let go of the deep breathing, the cues, the this, the that, or the other thing. We'll take a moment here, resting your mind. Now slowly restarting that deeper breathing. Exhale, arms up. Inhale, folding. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, stepping back. So your choice, you could keep neck and head in line with your spine. Or if you prefer, you could let your head hang. You could keep your knees bent. Or if you like, you could take your knees straighter. So many different choices. A few more deep breaths. And then come on down. And then moving on to your back. So do you still have your strap or your towel handy? So whichever one you're going to use, what we're going to do is we're going to loop it around your foot. So let's take your left leg out. Right leg goes out and take your left leg up. And then looping the belt or the towel around that foot. Oh, thank you. So you can probably see that I have my leg pretty much in the vertical. And rather than focusing a whole lot on pull that leg way back, I'm going to focus on lengthening that leg. So that's going to happen a few different ways. That's going to be about taking my foot up toward the ceiling, especially the ball of the foot, but also the heel. Then at the same time, flow your inner thigh down to the floor. Now this cue of lengthening the leg is a safety valve to protect from hyperextending your knee. Now, probably a lot of you, if not most of you, the thought that your knee getting too straight is kind of hard to imagine. But there's more than a handful of us that could easily hear over straighten the knee, and that's really hard on the connective tissue. So take your foot up and then visualize your inner thigh flows down toward the floor. And that's going to both open the back of your knee and your kneecap. We're going to hold here for count of 5, 4, steady breathing, 3, 2, 1, and releasing that leg down, outstretching through both legs. We'll take a moment here to check in. Do the two sides, left side, right side, feel the same? So whether they do or they don't, let's take a look at the second side. So that's going to be left leg outstretched. Right foot this time up in the air. And I like to put the belt on the ball of my foot, the belt or the towel or whatever it may be. Now already my body can feel this side is way different. So I'm going to think in terms of the ball of the foot pushing into the strap at the same time my heel lifting up toward the ceiling. And then at the same time, inner thigh flows down toward the floor. To cultivate a sense that the back of the knee opens up. But if that's all you do, then you might be hyperextending. Super hard on the connective tissue. So make sure the back of the knee opens, as does the kneecap, the front of the knee. And we'll hold here for count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing, outstretching through both legs. We'll take a few moments here to relax all your muscles. Now, if this is uncomfortable in your lower back, you can bend your knees. And if you'd like, you could close your eyes. Pet your cat if applicable. And we'll take a few more breaths here, letting your muscles relax. And if you've closed your eyes, now opening your eyes. And then coming up to sitting. So ordinarily I'd come up to sitting too, but as you can probably see, I have a cat on my belly. Collette and I call this being pinned by a cat, where you can't move because the cat's on top of you. So I'm right now pinned by Buddy Cat. He's giving me really soft eyes. So really awesome to do this practice with you all. And may you be as relaxed as Buddy's eyes look right now. And if there are any comments or questions, please feel free to type them into the chat. Even though I'm reclining on the job, I'll still be here to answer any questions. Oh, anything in the chat? Nothing? So awesome that we could be here together. And if you can, if you're watching this live right now, in 15 minutes, I'm going to do a program on Pilates and how it's such a really great way to stay active, especially as you age, and really great for athletes. So at 10:15 Central Daylight Time, and that link, I believe, is in the chat, not right now. Gotcha, too late, yeah. So check, send an email. Putting an email address if you'd like to sign up because this is 11th hour. Anyway, awesome. Great to see you all, and let's do this again really soon. Do you think we should do this again, buddy? Oh, now Buddy's doing the